Hello guys, welcome back to our anime explainer. Guys, please like the video and subscribe to my channel, thank you. Today is explanation of upcoming episode of Battle Through the Heavens based on novel. So let's start. During the movement of his gaze, Xiao Yan had also glanced at the area below the Misty Cloud mountain. There was the faint sounds of killing being transmitted from there. It was likely that the 100,000 strong Imperial army at the bottom of the mountain had begun their attack. Currently, killing and fighting had erupted in almost from every single spot of the Misty Cloud mountain. This sect, which was usually quiet, was now completely covered in a terribly bloody storm. Xiao Yan's gaze swept all around once before it was swiftly withdrawn. He slowly exhaled a breath of air and his eyes flickered as he looked at Yunshan in front of him, who showed a savage smile on the corner of his mouth. Xiao Yan lowered his gaze slightly and glanced at the dense white ring on his finger. After a brief moment of hesitation within his heart, Xiao Yan clenched his teeth violently. It was likely that he could only use this killing weapon if he really wanted to defeat Yunshan. Xiao Yan made up his mind within his heart. He ceased hesitating as he moved his hand. A cluster of medicinal pills appeared in his hand before he stuffed them into his mouth and chewed with all his might. The Do Chi, exhausted by an angry Buddha lotus flame formed from the combination of two kinds of heavenly flames, was not any less than using the open mountain seal. The Do Chi that was required for the merger of three kinds of heavenly flame naturally increased by multiple times. Hence, the current him needed to go all out and enable the Do Chi within his body to be maintained at a filled condition. Yunshan's face twitched a little as he looked at how Xiao Yan wildly ate the medicinal pills. Even though he was an elite Dozong, the medicinal pills, which he had stashed away naturally, would not exceed Xiao Yan's rich collection. Hence, he could only open his eyes and watch Xiao Yan's exhausted Do Chi slowly recovered with the help of the medicinal pills. Of course, it was naturally impossible for Yunshan to foolishly wait for Xiao Yan to recover his Do Chi. Hence, the moment that Xiao Yan swallowed those medicinal pills, his body moved abruptly and immediately appeared in front of Xiao Yan in a strange manner. His hand slashed at Xiao Yan's throat. Under the cover of that deep green Do Chi, his fingernails were not any weaker than sharp blades. Xiao Yan's body leaned back slightly and Yunshan's hand was close to Xiao Yan's neck as it sliced through the air. The dense, cold wind caused Xiao Yan's skin to feel a chill. A silver glow flickered under Xiao Yan's feet as his body leaned back. His body immediately rushed away. While he did so, he flicked his finger and the heavy Xian ruler flashed and appeared. His feet violently kicked the ruler's hilt, and the heavy ruler carried a ferocious strength that shot toward Yunshan, who wanted to give chase. The heavy ruler that rushed over caused Yunshan's body to pause. He ruthlessly smashed his fist forward and sent the heavy ruler flying. Xiao Yan's finger shook just as Yunshan sent the heavy ruler flying. The dense white-colored ring burst apart, and a cluster of fierce dense white flame swiftly surfaced in front of Xiao Yan. Xiao Yan tore apart the glazed lotus core flame at the same time that he saw the dense white flame appear. The former turned into a cluster of green-colored flames and an invisible one. Soon after, Xiao Yan clapped his hands together without hesitating, and the green lotus core flame and the fallen heart flame were pressed into the cluster of dense white-colored flame. The space around Xiao Yan began to ripple when the three kinds of heavenly flame made contact. Yunshan's expression changed drastically when he saw the actions of Xiao Yan. He could sense the three different colored flames in front of Xiao Yan were deriving an extremely frightening energy. Yunshan, who had transformed into a black shadow that rushed over, similarly caused Xiao Yan's expression to change slightly. The blackish-green wings on his back were flapped. Both of his hands tightly held the cluster of three different colored flames, which were swiftly mixing, as his body swiftly withdrew. On top of dodging, Xiao Yan also flicked his finger, and some jade bottles suddenly shot out from the storage ring. There was a palm-sized fire lotus within each of the jade bottles. Bang! 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 The jade bottles flew out and immediately let out a chaotic explosive crackling sound, like a firecracker, at a spot that was not far from Yunshan. Although these small fire lotus were unable to cause much injuries to Yunshan, they were indeed able to slow down his chasing speed. Hence, Xiao Yan had stopped his fleeing stance a short distance away when Yunshan was breaking through the unceasing number of fire lotus explosions. Bang! Vang. 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 Xiao Yan flapped the blackish-green wings on his back in the air. His face was pale white, as his breathing became unusually weary. A foot-wide 3 different colored fire lotus was gently floating above his palm. A frighteningly wild and violent energy slowly seeped out, causing shock to surge up on the faces of everyone present. The blackish-green wings on Xiao Yan's back had become much thinner at this moment. All of this proved that at this moment, Xiao Yan was completely spent. Despite this, the fire lotus held in his hand that contained an unusually frightening energy caused even an expert, like Yun Shan, to be afraid of taking the initiative to attack. Instead, he hurriedly activated his firmest defense. He was afraid that should the fire lotus attack, he would be the first to perish under that fire. The 3 different colored fire lotus slowly rotated above Xiao Yan's hand. Borrowing this momentary period of rest, the flame mantra, Qi method, within Xiao Yan's body also began to hurriedly absorb some of the natural energy. After which, it acted in concert with the medicinal strength that had not been completely digested within his body. The energy was swiftly refined before finally transforming into pure Do Qi that flowed within his exhausted Qi paths. That protector Wu clearly appeared as though he did not expect Yao Lao's strength. After chasing spiritual bodies for so many years, he had seldom failed. Hence, regardless of how strong those spiritual bodies were when they were alive, once they lost their physical body, they would appear to be like fierce tigers that had lost their fangs in the eyes of their Hall of Souls. These spiritual bodies were entirely under the control of them. The 3 different colored lotus flame, that was slowly rotating immediately turned into a blurry ray of light, that rushed out in a lightning-like manner when his cry sounded. Although the fire lotus contained a majestic, frightening, wild, violent energy, it was unusually quiet when it cut through the air. It did not even cause the slightest energy ripple. However, it was this completely silent manner that caused a chill to appear in people's hearts. Yun's eyes, as she stood by the wedding stage, remained unblinking as she looked at the blurry light figure that flashed across the sky. Although her Do Qi was sealed, her perception as a Do Huang was still present. Hence, she sensed a little of the terrifying energy within that fire lotus. Some panic and uneasiness immediately surged onto her pretty face. Her delicate, jade-like hands were tightly clenched. In her heart, she clearly knew that Xiao Yan and Yun Shan had used their true killing moves. Next, it was likely going when the victor of this fight would be determined. The fire lotus rushed through the sky in front of a countless number of eyes that contained various emotions. Finally, it was like a tiny falling star, as it collided with the enormous tornado that was rotating in a crazy manner. The tiny size of the fire lotus was on a completely different scale compared to that enormous tornado. That collision was just like a bird colliding into a mountain wall, an act that would not cause the latter to tremble even a little. However, not everything could be merely judged by its size. Boom. Boom. A loud sound was transmitted over. The fire lotus collided head-on with the enormous tornado, and a cold and different sound immediately resounded over the sky like thunder. Vang. 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 It is really unexpected that an angry Buddha lotus flame, that is formed from the merger of 3 kinds of heavenly flame, would have a strength that was actually this terrifying god. Just what kind of dreadful Do skill did this little fellow create? Hai Budong and the others rushed down from the sky and landed on the top of a tall tree. Their appearances were somewhat miserable. The fire wave's frightening energy, that had swept over a moment ago, had caught them off guard. However, it was fortunate that their actual strength was quite great. Hence, they did not receive many serious injuries despite looking miserable. Are you all right? Everyone revealed themselves, looked at each other before opening their mouths to check on everyone else. Hai Budong let out a bitter laugh. His gaze swept over the experts by his side and immediately knit his brows slightly. After the big battle earlier, their side had at the very least lost 3 expert Do Wangs despite them having managed to cause the Misty Cloud sect to lose some elders. The intensity of this big battle had far exceeded everyone's expectations. That old Yin Jiyu, Su Mai, and Wu Tai had a hint of a green color on their faces while everyone was doing a head count. This was because most of the few Do Wangs, who they had unluckily lost, were their subordinates. This damn Misty Cloud sect. The 3 people exchanged glances with one another before clenching their teeth and quietly cursing. These expert Do Wangs were not people whom they could just randomly groom. The loss of a few of them was sufficient to cause their flesh to feel a great pain. I wonder how is Xiao Yang? Lin Yang's face was currently somewhat pale. However, his eyes had an unusual heat flickering within. From the looks of it, their fight this time around might be extremely brutal, but it was to his taste. Based on his perspective, one should live a life that was filled with stimulation. The sparing feeling from the academy was far from able to satisfy his battle-addicted heart. Lin Xiaoya and Liu Qing beside him shook their heads when they heard this. The faces of these two were not very good either. Each of them had some injuries on their bodies, but these were not considered too serious. Yun, who was around the wedding stage, felt her heart sink violently when he saw the reduced number of Misty Cloud sex elders who had appeared. It was really unexpected that the Misty Cloud sex losses would actually be this severe. Moreover, no one knew whether Yunshan was alive within the fire cloud in the sky. Although everyone knew the great strength of an elite Dozong, everyone had clearly sensed just what kind of frightening energy was contained in the three-colored fire lotus that Xiao Yang had unleashed. Hence, despite them being extremely clear about Yunshan's strength, they were still filled with uncertainty. Yun did not bother about the gazes of all the elders. She clearly knew just what kind of dangerous situation the current Misty Cloud sect faced. It is not overboard to say that it was a situation of survival or death. Bang! While everyone had thrown their gazes toward the fire cloud of an unknown thickness in the sky, a part of the fire cloud suddenly began to fluctuate intensely. Two human figures immediately rushed forward with one at the front and one at the back. The two human figures that suddenly appeared naturally attracted all the eyes present the moment they did so. However, after everyone had a clear look, they realized that these two were not Xiao Yang and Yunshan, but Protector Wu and Yao Lao. The two people's bodies descended quite a lot after being forced out of the fire cloud before they stabilized their bodies. The moment the jade fire wings on his back appeared, Xiao Yang suddenly charged toward the repeatedly descending Yunshan below. The little remaining Do Qi within his body was completely drawn out before being wrapped around his fist, which he viciously smashed downward. He clearly understood that despite the unusually great strength possessed by the angry Buddha lotus flame formed from the merger of three heavenly flames, it would still be quite difficult for one to kill an elite Dozong by just relying on this. Hence, he must grab the opportunity when Yunshan's internal body was weak to beat him when he is down. Otherwise, once Yunshan were to recover by even a little, the one who had his eyes shut while awaiting death would be Xiao Yang instead. This action of Xiao Yang once again stirred a countless number of exclamations from the open ground. Anyone could tell that Yunshan's defense was at its weakest at this very moment. Should he receive a heavy blow now, he would definitely die or become disabled. Xiao Yang swiftly rushed to Yunshan's front under the countless number of gazes filled with shock and wild joy. At this moment, the latter was able to open his eyes and possess some consciousness. Hence, a terror finally involuntarily spread out from his heart when he saw the savage smile and killing intent that surfaced on Xiao Yang's face. He could sense that if Xiao Yang were to really use a killing move at this very moment, his ending. The sinister smile on the corner of Xiao Yang's mouth also grew increasingly wider as he looked at the shock and terror that had surged on Yunshan's face. A weak voice was transmitted into Yunshan's ear. "Old dog. I already said back then that I will definitely make you regret allowing me to flee on my last breath. Xiao Yang has remembered this debt for 3 years. Today, I shall repay it all to you." "Xiao Yang, don't." The familiar voice caused Xiao Yang's fist to pause. His gaze involuntarily shifted down, and immediately saw Yun's pretty pale white face that was filled with a plea. The state of mind of Xiao Yang, that was filled with killing intent, began to tremble a little when he saw the pretty pale white face that was covered with a pleading look. He was not totally unaffected by the words and actions of this woman. The time over the entire sky appeared to have stilled at this moment. A countless number of gazes stared intently at the young man in the sky without blinking. His next action would determine the fate of the Misty Cloud sect. The fists of Hai Budong and the others were clenched tightly. They almost involuntarily felt like jumping on the spot the moment they saw Xiao Yang's punch stopped by Yun's sharp cry. As long as he ruthlessly gave the punch at this moment, they would truly win this bet of theirs where they had given all that they had. Give the blow. Jiuxing Tian, Hai Budong, and the others were staring with big eyes amid this silent sky. Their breathing gradually became rough and their faces were completely flushed, because of the anxiety in their hearts. The veins on their hands pulsed, appearing extremely shocking. However, they did not dare to emit the slightest sound at this moment despite the unusual anxiety in their hearts. They could only roar out loud with all their might within their hearts. Most of the factions had gambled their entire clan in today's big battle. They would undoubtedly gain great benefits if they won. However, if they were to unluckily lose, they would truly have to face the danger of the destruction of their clans. Yet, this so-called victory was all determined by this one punch by Xiao Yan. They would win the bet if the punch fell. Yao Lao's gaze in the sky a short distance away was also focused intently on Xiao Yang, whose eyes were flickering. He did not make any noise to interrupt him. Yao Lao knew that this young man, whom he had watched growing up, would not disappoint him. The sky was silent. A countless number of gazes that contained various emotions crossed each other in the sky. They were all waiting for the final ending of this big battle today. Xiao Yang's lowered gaze paused on Yunyun's pitiful pale white face. An instant gentleness appeared in his eyes at that instant. The transformation of the glint in Xiao Yang's eyes was clearly absorbed into Yunyun's eyes. The paleness on her face immediately became fainter. She knew that by speaking and interrupting Xiao Yang at this moment, she was a little rude and unreasonable without caring for the other party's feeling. However, no matter how one put it, she was a member of the Misty Cloud sect. That Yunshan was her teacher, who had personally groomed her. Although Yunshan's actions these few years caused their relationship to fade greatly, this was not enough of a reason for Yunyun to personally witness Yunshan being killed by Xiao Yang's hands. Xiao Yang suddenly withdrew his gaze just as the paleness on Yunyun's face became a little fainter. The gentleness within his eyes instantly disappeared. Replacing it was an extremely dense hatred and killing intent. He had already said that no one could stop him from killing Yunshan, even if this person were Yunyun, who had a complicated relationship with him. Yunyun, there must be someone who has to repay the blood debt of the Xiao clan. A blood debt must be repaid by blood. Everyone can forget about escaping from it. An indifferent voice was softly emitted from Xiao Yang's mouth, before drifting over the entire open ground. Yunyun's somewhat less pale face had instantly turned colorless when this voice sounded. Her lovely body trembled and a mist appeared within her eyes. Xiao Yang's eyes suddenly became stern after his soft voice sounded. The fist which had paused because of Yunyun's sharp cry earlier suddenly trembled. Immediately, it carried the last remaining strength within Xiao Yang and violently struck the spot of Yunshan's chest where his heart was located in front of many shocked and joyful eyes. A deep sound appeared and a wave of bone-cracking sounds quickly appeared. This time around, it did not originate from Yunshan's body, but from the fist of the savage Xiao Yang, whose eyes revealed a craziness. Due to the strength of this blow being overly great, the reaction force had caused the bones on Xiao Yang's fist to reveal some crack lines. Old dog, this punch is for my father. Old dog, this punch is for my mother. This punch is for those Xiao clan members who died. This punch is because you have caused the lifespan of my second brother to shrink. This punch is because you have caused my big brother to become a cripple. Xiao Yang completely ignored the intense pain that was transmitted from his fist. His eyes were bloody right as his fist danced once again. Immediately, he viciously smashed it at Yunshan like a lunatic. Furious roars sounded one after another each time his fist danced. Yunshan's chest was clearly dented a little inward after this crazy attack by Xiao Yang. A redness surged up onto his face and a large mouthful of fresh blood that contained some fragmented internal organs was wildly thrown up, dyeing Xiao Yang's body in front of him with fresh blood. However, Xiao Yang completely ignored it as his fist repeatedly and angrily smashed down. That crazy-like manner was filled with a coldness. Yunyun's pretty face was completely void of any blood color, as she looked at Yunshan, who was falling swiftly from the sky as well as that seemingly crazy Xiao Yang above him. Her knees became weak, as she finally sat on the ground in a paralyzed manner. Her delicate hand covered the many painful swallowing sounds that her mouth emitted. She could tell just what kind of extent Xiao Yang's hatred had reached from the sharp and stern roar emitted from him. This kind of hatred could only be washed by using fresh blood. The entire place was silent in the face of Xiao Yan's crazy attacks, and the rapidly vanishing signs of life from the falling Yunshan. Only Yun Yun's low forced saliva swallowing sound reverberated across the open ground. Hai Budong, Jiao Tian, and the others all let out a long sigh of relief when they saw Xiao Yang's fist containing a fury, as well as killing intent strike Yunshan's body. They sat down on the treetop. The anxiety from earlier had nearly caused them to collapse. This little fellow, seems that he has suffered quite a bit during these two. This old dog Yunshan could be said to be reaping what he has sown, Hai Budong softly muttered after raising his head to look at Xiao Yang, who was emitting a fury roar today. It seems that the Misty Cloud sect will have its name removed from the Jumai Empire. Jiao Tian nodded slightly. Although the Misty Cloud sect was a large and strong in the past, they had become a chaotic faction of players who had greatly fallen. Bang! 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 Another heavy punch viciously smashed Yunshan's already sunken chest. Xiao Yang's body swayed and the jade-green lotus flame paled. His right fist was lowered and curled into a strange arc. That crazy attack earlier had resulted in the cracks on Xiao Yang's bones to spread. His fist bones quivered until it cracked apart significantly. Yunshan's face was covered with fresh blood. He slowly closed his eyes in fear and dissatisfaction. In his weakest state, the wild and crazy attack that he faced was something that would undoubtedly result in Yunshan's death regardless of how crazily one attacked. Yao Lao softly sighed when he saw the weak smile on Xiao Yang's blood-covered face. He pulled at Xiao Yang's slightly deformed wrist and said, "You are too crazy. You will likely need to recuperate for a long while because of these injuries." Xiao Yang was half conscious as he heard Yao Lao's words. He suddenly recalled something and struggled to open his eyes. He looked at the falling corpse of Yunshan that was about to strike the ground and hurriedly said, "Quick! Capture that fellow's corpse." A skeleton of an elite dozong. Yao Lao was initially startled when he heard this. His heart was immediately filled with warmth as he smiled and nodded. His body rushed toward Yunshan's corpse in a lightning-like manner. "Yao Chen, you are a little slow to act." A black figure cut through the air like lightning and instantly appeared beside Yunshan's body just as Yao Lao was about to move. The figure grabbed Yunshan's body. It was actually that Protector Wu. "You are seeking death." Yao Lao's expression sank as he cried out sharply upon seeing the actions of Protector Wu. "It is not certain just who is the one seeking death." Protector Wu laughed in a strange manner. The black fog on his hand flowed and it immediately slapped viciously on the top of Yunshan's head. Finally, he pulled with his strength and an unconscious illusionary spiritual body was pulled out forcefully from Yunshan's body by Protector Wu. This protector said that, "I will capture and bring Yunshan back to the Hall of Souls today regardless of what kind of hefty price I have to pay." Protector Wu emitted a dark, cold laugh after forcefully pulling out Yunshan's spirit in front of all the shocked gazes present. His hands immediately and abruptly changed into numerous strange and cumbersome hand seals. A moment later, a sharp cry suddenly resounded across the sky. 9 forests swallowing 100 spirit. The sharp cry sounded and an unusual black fog suddenly surged out from within Protector Wu's body before wrapping the spiritual body of Yunshan within it. Immediately, numerous chewing sounds were creepily and slowly emitted from the black fog. The expressions of everyone had become unusually ugly at this moment. What happened? Xiao Yang was also shocked by this sudden scene. He tried his best to struggle and prevent himself from falling unconscious. He took out a medicinal pill from his storage ring and stuffed it into his mouth. He soon sensed the warm energy that appeared within his empty body. His blurry vision was also slightly clearer, as his gaze stared intently at the cluster of black fog before asking in surprise, "That fellow seems to have swallowed Yunshan's spirit." Yao Lao's face was unusually solemn at this moment. He could sense the dark, cold, unusual aura within the black fog was swiftly becoming stronger. Xiao Yang's expression changed slightly when he heard this. It was unexpected that this Protector Wu was actually so ruthless. He had drawn out Yunshan's spirit without a word before swallowing it. From the looks of it, it seemed that today's matter was not over. The experts from the Hall of Souls are extremely strange. It is unexpected that they are actually able to forcefully swallow spirits to increase their strength. However, according to what I think, this kind of secret technique should have an extremely great side effect. Even if he could successfully swallow Yunshan's spirit at this moment, it is likely that he will have to pay quite a hefty price in the future. Otherwise, he would not wait until this moment to use it. Yao Lao spoke in a deep voice. What do we do next? The corner of Xiao Yan's mouth twitched. The intense pain that was transmitted from his wrist caused his arm to repeatedly tremble. However, this moment was not the time for him to recuperate. Hence, he could only ask his question in a solemn manner. We cannot allow him to successfully swallow Yunshan's spirit. Yao Lao narrowed his eyes. A cold glint immediately flashed through his eyes. He waved his sleeves and a rich bone-chilling flame appeared before rushing toward the cluster of black fog. The dense white flame flew across the sky. However, just as it was about to knock into the black fog, the latter suddenly fluctuated intensely. A dark, cold fog immediately surged out and collided with the flame. The two eroded each other before finally turning into nothingness. The cold cry of Protector Wu suddenly appeared. Immediately, the bodies of over a dozen Misty Cloud sect's elders immediately became flaccid as they fell. Numerous illusionary spiritual bodies floated out from them in all directions, and slowly rose into the air amid a countless number of shocked eyes. Finally, they were all absorbed into that cluster of black fog. Yunyun's lovely body trembled as she looked at the Misty Cloud sect's elders, who had instantly lost their lives. A green color gradually surged on her pretty face. A moment later, a furious sharp cry resounded over the place as a powerful Do Chi surged out from her body. Bastard! Return their spirits! Yunyun's pretty face was ice cold. She moved her finger, and a thread of sharp sword aura rushed out from the tip of her finger, before violently colliding with that arrow force. Finally, it completely disappeared, having offset this attack by the other party. Yunyun flapped her wings and appeared beside the black fog. A sharp green-colored longsword, that gave off a bright luster, appeared. The sword shook. It carried a sharp sword cry and a sharp sword aura, as it rushed toward the black fog. Vang! 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 The sword aura had just left when a low, deep sound was emitted from the black fog. The black fog suddenly surged and swallowed the sword aura, before swiftly scattering in front of Yunyun. The black fog surged and a majestic energy rushed toward Yunyun. Powerful Do Chi hurriedly surfaced from Yunyun's body, as she sensed the swiftly scattering black fog. After which, it collided with the black fog. Vang! Vang! Yunyun's body appeared to have received a heavy blow when the energy explosion sounded. She swiftly fell from the sky. Only after a couple of flaps from the wings on her back did she manage to stabilize her body while wearing a pale face. Given her strength, it was indeed difficult for her to contend with Protector Wu. I'm afraid that it is over for this Misty Cloud sect. Xiao Yang looked at the Misty Cloud sect's elders, who were devoid of any life force. After which, he took another glance at the pale-faced Yunyun before shaking his head and speaking softly. This protector's target is Yao Chen, and it has nothing to do with you. If you continue to act fretfully, this protector will first eliminate your Misty Cloud sect before even Xiao Yang can. Protector Wu, who had appeared, glanced indifferently at Yunyun and laughed in a dark, cold manner. Yunyun inhaled a deep breath of air. She slowly suppressed her fluctuating mood. She immediately waved her delicate hand and an angry cry resounded across the sky. All Misty Cloud sect's disciples, deacons, elders, listen up. Form the formation. The countless number of Misty Cloud sect's disciples on the open ground were initially startled when they heard Yunyun's order before immediately agreeing with a united furious sound. They let out numerous orderly voices before sitting cross-legged on the ground. Finally, waves of unceasing white-colored energy fog surged out from all directions. Stubborn fool! Protector Wu immediately let out a dark, cold laugh when he saw Yunyun's action. However, just as she was about to act, a sharp forceful sword aura suddenly shot to the sky from the mountain behind the Misty Cloud sect. A clear, sharp whistle resounded in everyone's ears. A powerful aura suddenly surged from behind the mountain the moment the sword whistle sounded. This aura, Xiao Yang, was slightly startled in the sky before he suddenly narrowed his eyes. Nalan Yanran. The woman who had suddenly appeared was also startled because of the mess in the open ground. Her gaze immediately turned to Yunyun in the sky, who was looking at her with a startled look. That pretty face, which seemed to be broken, with a blow immediately revealed a heart-moving smile. A clear voice that was filled with pleasure sounded from the sky. Teacher, Yanran, you have really broken through the gate of life and death. Yun greatly rejoiced as she looked at the lady, who was a little more matured compared to a few years ago. Hearing the way that Yun was addressed, the lady who had appeared was surprisingly the one who had an inextricable relationship with Xiao Yan, Nalan Yanran. The doe-chi wings on Nalan Yanran back were flapped slightly, as she swiftly rushed to Yun's side. Her gaze looked all around her before she pressed her eyebrows together and inquired, Teacher, what has happened to the Misty Cloud sect? The smile on Yun's pretty face was withdrawn slightly when she heard this. Her voice was somewhat grieved as she said, Yanran, the Misty Cloud sect might be finished. Nalan Yanran's lovely body trembled. She also seemed to have sensed that something was not right. Her gaze swiftly swept across the open ground in detail, and her eyes immediately shrank, as they paused over Yun Shan and those elders who had lost their lives on the open ground. Shock drifted into her eyes. She immediately clenched her silver teeth and hissed, This who did this? Nalan Yanran's eyes turned toward the sky while her mouth spoke these words. She suddenly stiffened as she faced that somewhat familiar black-robed figure. Her gaze carried some disbelief, as it slowly shifted upward before finally stopping on the face that was covered with traces of blood. You are Xiao Yan. Why are you here? Although that face was covered by fresh blood, Nalan Yanran still managed to recognize it immediately. She let out an involuntary cry upon doing so. It is unexpected that you have also reached this stage after having not seen you for a couple of years. Xiao Yan was also somewhat surprised as he studied Nalan Yanran. He could sense that the latter's strength was also at the peak of the Do Wang class at this moment. You are the one who is responsible for what happened to the Misty Cloud sect. Nalan Yanran slowly recovered from her shock. She immediately seemed to have understood something as her delicate hand pointed below and spoke furiously, Xiao Yan, you can come and look for me if you have a problem. Why must you find trouble with the Misty Cloud sect? Those matters back then have long been resolved. It is unexpected that you have actually not forgotten about them. Are you still considered a man? This has nothing to do with you. There is no need to take the blame for everything. You don't have that qualification, nor that ability. Xiao Yang's voice was indifferent as he glanced at the furious Nalan Yanran. Teacher, what exactly happened? I will explain to you after everything is over. Now, we must take revenge for those elders whose spirits have been swallowed first. Yun waved her hand. Her pretty face swiftly became chilly as her gaze swept over the white-colored fog that had surged out from the Misty Cloud sect disciples below. She turned her head and spoke in a deep voice to Nalan Yanran, Yanran, help me control the formation. Yes. Although Nalan Yanran was somewhat helpless at meeting such an unexpected turn of events upon leaving her retreat, she chose to immediately follow Yun's words. Covering sun cloud formation. The cool cry was emitted from Yun's mouth. Immediately, the sea of clouds fluctuated and agglomerated into a large energy sword, over 100 feet in size and covered with mysterious cloud lines. The enormous sword trembled slightly and the powerful energy contained in it shook the air until it fluctuated slightly. The black-colored fog seemed to contain an extremely corrosive ability. The moment the black fog made contact with the enormous cloud sword, it swiftly corroded all of the enormous energy that was contained in the latter. Under this unusual corrosion of the black fog, Yun lost her relationship with the enormous sword. Hence, she could only watch as the enormous cloud-colored sword swiftly became fainter before completely disappearing. The powerful attack that gathered all the strength of the experts from the Misty Cloud sect did not actually have the slightest effect on the current Protector Wu. Yun and Nalan Yanran's expressions changed slightly when the attack was completely useless. The strength of Protector Wu had far exceeded their expectations. Damn it! Yun viciously clenched her silver teeth, but was unwilling to give up. Her hand seal moved and the sea of clouds once again fluctuated suddenly. An irritating fly. Protector Wu's face also sank when he saw Yun attacked once again. The repeated attacks of the former had caused him to become a little irritated. He immediately let out a low, dark, cold cry. An unusual dark, majestic energy suddenly surged out of his body. Immediately, it formed an enormous black-colored hand, over 100 feet in size, within the air. Finally, it smashed violently down toward the position where the Sea of Clouds was located. Bang! 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 The sound appeared one after another. The black-colored energy handprint was extremely fast. In merely the blink of an eye, it appeared above the head of Yun and the others in front of their shocked eyes. It immediately smashed down angrily. The frightening energy that erupted at that instant caused the Do Chi that the Misty Cloud sect's disciples agglomerated to be shaken until it cracked apart, and the sound was deafening. Those Misty Cloud sect disciples below were also implicated when the Sea of Clouds broke. Immediately, most of the people below displayed pale faces as they involuntarily spat out a mouthful of fresh blood. Today, the heavens really do want to eliminate our Misty Cloud sect. Yun's bright eyes were filled with defeat as a bitterness seeped out from the corner of their mouths. Nalan Yanran, by the side, also clenched her teeth tightly. Meeting an enemy that she could not contend with the moment she left her retreat was quite a big blow to her. The protector Wu's target was clearly not the remains of the Misty Cloud sect. Hence, he slowly turned his gaze toward Xiao Yan and Yao Lao after pushing back Yun's group. He revealed a dark, cold smile. His voice was filled with a dense killing intent that resounded across the sky. Today, none of you will escape. I want the spirit, and I also want the people from the Xiao clan. This video will end here. Thank you for watching.